Hey guys, this is Haradhan here. As you already seen, I started creating and uploading video for Selenium WebDriver with CHAS. And I know that few of you already gained good knowledge, right? And want to crack the interview, right? So that is the reason, along with creating and uploading videos for Selenium WebDriver with CHAS, I will be starting parallelly creating the videos for automation and Selenium WebDriver with CHAS interview question and answer. So this is the part 1. Here you will get first 25 automation testing and Selenium WebDriver with CHAS interview question and answer. So I will try to upload more videos down the line, and if you go through all the interview question and answer, especially for the Selenium WebDriver or the CHAS or any unit or relevant framework, definitely, right, you can crack your interview. So what is software testing? So why we require to perform the software testing, right? So software testing in the overall as part of our software delivery life cycle, right? David, we are performing 3 primary kind of activity. One is the development, one is the testing, one is the maintenance or support, right? So developer used to develop their code, right? So the support, right? It will be production support, right? Whenever in the real time any kind of problem is coming, we need to analyze it and we need to find solution. But in the software testing, right, we will, after development is completed, right, we will try to test from based on the QA understanding, and we will find out any kind of fallacy or defect or issue is there or not, and we will report it and we will try to correct them before it going to the production, right? So software testing is the process of evaluating and verifying that the software product or application does what is it is expected to do. So whether my product is working based on my expectation or not. It involves execution of software or system component using manual or automated tool to evaluate one or more properties of interest. The purpose of software testing is to identify error, gaps, or missing requirement in respect to actual requirement. The benefit of testing include preventing bug, reducing development cost, improving overall performance, and avoiding any real-time issue. So software testing can be manual, we can do it, or with the help of any automation tool like Selenium, UFT, Tosca, right? We will be automating our testing test cases so that automatically we can run it, right? But main objective is to, in case of any gap is there, any kind of requirement mismatch is there, any kind of error is there, we need to identify them, right? So in case we can identify them as early as possible, it will definitely help us reducing the overall project cost, right, improving the project performance and avoiding any kind of real-time issue in the production. So analytics prefer saying software testing as a white box and black box testing. In simple terms, software testing means the verification of the application under test or AUT. So white box is nothing but going through the code you will be doing some testing, but black box is nothing but without knowing the code from the UI level you will be doing some testing. So primarily 2 type of testings we do. One is white box, one is the black box. What are the different type of testing user can perform to certify the product? It can be starting from the developer to the QA and the end user of or the business, right? So I have tried to articulate the important type of testings which we usually do throughout the product life cycle. First, unit testing. So it will be done by the development team to validate that each software unit perform as expected. A unit is the smallest testable component of the application. So whenever developer will be developing their code, they will try to test, do the unit testing to validate whether each and every component is working as per the expectation. Then it will come to the function once it is certified, right? So it will be coming to the QA team or the quality assurance team, and then they will do the functional testing where they will check functions by emulating business scenario based on the functional requirement. So black box testing is a common way to verify the function. Then once the functional testing or system testing is fine, then it will come as part of integration testing and then end-to-end testing, where, right, QA team will ensure that software component or functions operate together without any issue, right? Once this kind of testing is successful, right, and already, I mean, there are so many deployment happens, there are so many defect fixes happen. After that, QA team need to perform some regression testing to verify that new feature does not break or degrade functionality. Sanity testing can be used to verify menus, functions, and command at the surface level when there is no time for a full regression test. Okay. Then, I mean, apart from the functional testing, we need to perform some non-functional testing, right? Where it will be, we'll be doing performance testing, test testing, right? So performance testing, in performance testing, we will validate how the software performs under different workload or load testing, right? Similarly, stress testing, we can validate how much strain the system can take before it fails, considered to be type of non-functional testing. Then so once our I mean performance also check, right, then we need to check whether whatever product we have developed, whether is it use, I mean working based on the customer need or not. So we can do the usability testing. So validating how well a customer can use a system or web application to complete a task. Then there will be acceptance testing will be coming. In acceptance testings, we'll be trying two type of testing. One is the alpha testing, one is the beta testing. In alpha testing, it will be done at the development end to certify the product. Similarly, beta testing will be done at the customer end to verify whether the product is working based on the customer need. So acceptance testing is nothing but verifying whether the system as a whole work as intended. So it will start from the unit testing, then it will go for the functional testing where it will be doing the system testing, then it will be integration testing and end-to-end testing, then it will come to the regression testing, and as part of the non-functional testing we will be doing the performance, stress and usability testing, and then end user or the customer will check the acceptance testing to validate that, right, system as a whole works as intended or not at the customer side. So what is the software testing lifecycle or STLC lifecycle? So software STLC stand for software testing lifecycle. STLC is a sequence of different activity performed by the testing team to ensure the quality of the software or the product. STLC is an integral part of SDLC or the software development lifecycle. However, STLC deals only with the testing phases. STLC start as soon as requirements are defined or software requirement document or SRD is shared by the stakeholder or by the customer or by the business. So STLC provides a step-by-step process to ensure quality software. In the early stage of STLC, while the software or the product is developing, the tester can analyze and define the scope of testing, entry and exit criteria, and also the test cases and the test scenario. It helps to reduce the test cycle time along with better quality. As soon as the development page is over, the tester are ready with the test cases and start with execution. This helps to find the bug in the initial phases. There are primarily 6 phases in every software testing lifecycle model. First, requirement analysis. So once we got the requirement from the customer, along with the development team, the QA team will also analyzing the requirement. In case any ambiguity is there, they will try to resolve this conflict or ambiguity. Then it will come to the test planning, where they will plan that whatever thing will be tested, whatever integration point they need to be tested, right? And they will create the strategy, and sometimes they will create the estimation as well. Then the test case development, where based on the requirement, first they will create the test scenario, then will create the test cases, and then will create the requirement testability matrix. And once the test case is reviewed by the business and the environment is ready, and the development team already completed the development, right? So the testing team will first test whether the environment setup is correctly done, right? And then they will start the test execution, where first they will do the sanity testing or the smoke testing. Will check whether, right, any kind of blocker is there or not. In case any kind of blocker is there, right, development team will fix those blocker. After that, testing will start. For initially system testing will start, or the smallest kind of component testing will be done. then it will go to the integration testing, and then it will go to the end-to-end testing. And definitely apart from that, regression testing, other testing will be occurred, right? Apart from that, performance testing, load testing, test testing as part of the non-functional testing will be there. And then it will, at the end of the day, we need to go for the test cycle closure, where before that also from the QA side we need to make sure that all the defect whatever we logged from our side, right, all the major or broker defect has been closed. Then we will be creating a closure report as part of our STLC lifecycle, where primarily we will be creating the test summary report, right, mentioning that how many iterations done, what are the different test cases executed in case of any defect is there, outstanding defect, what is the defect RCA, right, and what is in case any test cases we have postponed for the next sprint or the next cycle, right, what is the root reason for that. So that's why, and what whether our test summary report is kind of meeting all the criteria or not. So that's why we will be ending the software testing life cycle. What are error, fault and failure? So in the software testing, right, these are the very three important terms, right, we need to remember. So error, a human action that produces an incorrect result. Suppose say as a developer is developing something, but they do some mistake, right? So that can be error, and because of that error, right, something can break in the system. Okay. So fault is the manifestation of an error in a software or in implementation. So because of the error, fault will be there, but from the fault should be, right, solved before the product is ready. So failure, in case we are not solving the fault, right, deviation of the software from its expected delivery or service will be there, and it will be failure. So any human being can make an error or mistake which produces a defect or fault in the code or in the software application of the product. If a defect in code is executed, the system will fail to do what it should do, causing a failure. That is the reason, right, quality assurance team is there to find that fault, so that before it making its failure, it will be solved, right, or it will be resolved, so that there will be no failure. Error can be there, but we can find out those error or fault beforehand, before it going to the production, so that there will be no failure. How can error occur in the system? There are so many reasons is there, right? So we are all human being, right? So human beings are all prone to making simple human error, right? There can be miscommunication. Suppose whenever there is a communication is happening, there can be some communication gap or miscommunication. Sometimes requirement is not up to the mark due to some limitation. They are poor in nature, right? Then working under the pressure, sometimes timeline is very strict, right? Then there is a budget restriction, right? So suppose say we should deploy 10 quality assurance tester, but due to the budget restriction we'll be having only 5. So definitely something our system some error can occur. From the development side, right? No proper not due to the budget budget restriction, right? Whatever is required, right, that much resources are not available, and sometimes conflicting. Suppose say in case one person is working in the multiple work stream parallelly, so there can be some sort of problem can be there. Sometimes complexity of the technology or infrastructure is not available. Suppose say in case you are working with complex technology, or maybe the recent technology which came into the market, right? So because of that you are not having adequate skill set resources, or infrastructure is not available to perform different kind of development or testing activity. Sometimes poorly documented code without proper review. Sometimes some developer are doing the development, right? But as part of the process, right, all the code should be self-review, then peer review, and it should be reviewed by the right other business or the customer side. But sometimes whatever development team is developing their code, nobody is reviewing, so that can cause an error as well. And due to the environmental condition, sometimes environment is not stable enough, right? So that is the one of the major reasons because of which error can occur in the system. What are the key software testing 7 principles? So there are so many principles available in the software testing lifecycle, but these are the main 7 key testing principles we should always remember, and we should not deviate, right, as part of our lifecycle. All the tests should meet the customer requirement. So we cannot go beyond the customer requirement. So in case customer requirement is whatever is mentioned, we should follow strictly them, right? software testing should be performed by an independent third party. That is the reason development team is doing their unit testing. After that, it is coming to the QA team, which is the third party team, right? So that they will be having a different mindset, and based on the different mindset, something can come. So that is the reason same developer cannot do the testing. Several third party or independent parties should be there. Exhaustive testing is not possible, as we need the optimal amount of testing based on the risk assessment of the application. Sometimes due to the limitation, right? Suppose say we have to execute 100 test cases, and for that we require 10 days. But due to some limitation, right, we will be having 5 days. We will not be having 10 days sufficient time. So we can extend our effort maybe for the 5 days to certain hours, but it cannot be achievable, right, in 5 days the 10 days work. So definitely for that you need to go some risk-based testing, where you will be identifying what are the module is really critical, right, what are the module from where most of the defect can come. So based on that you will perform the risk-based testing. So before that you need to perform the risk-based assessment, so that you can continue the risk-based testing within the stipulated time frame. All the tests to be conducted should be planned before implementing it. So whatever you are testing will be doing, starting from the unit testing, functional testing, non-functional testing, regression testing, smoke testing, integration testing, right? It should be done before it going to the production, right? Product is going live, all the even including the UAT testing as well. Okay. It follows the Pareto rule, 80-20 rule, which states that 80% of error comes from 20% of the program component. That is the reason during whenever you are starting the project, right, from the requirement analysis to test case design, you should focus that what are the critical components from where, right, majority of the defect can come. That is the reason you need to analyze, to identify those 20% component from where 80% defect can come, and you should focus more execution or more design or more requirement analysis on this particular area, right, in case there is a time constraint is there. Start testing with small part and extend it to large part. That is the reason testing will be starting from the unit testing by the developer, then it will coming to the system testing, smallest component, then system integration testing, and then end-to-end testing. Early testing saves time and money. So nowadays, right, in the agile principles methodology, right, testing and development is going parallel. So during the requirement elaboration time, right, we can identify some mismatch in the requirement as well. So whenever, right, we are fixing or we are identifying the defect in the early phase, so that will definitely help to reduce the overall cost of the project, right? So early testing saves the times and money. What is defect life cycle? So from the testing standpoint, right, so whenever we are writing test cases, writing scenarios, right, and executing test cases, our end objective is to find out all the deviation or the defect in the system. And in case we are finding out the defect, right, we should log the defect in some test management or defect management tool. There are so many tools available. It can be Rally, it can be HPLM, it can be Jira, it can be Azure DevOps. And so once we identify the defect, right, so we should, with all the documentation, right, so what is the defect description, in which environment it is logged, right, what are the different expectation, what is the actual result is coming, right, what are the steps to perform to report the defect, along with the relevant screenshot, we will be identifying the defect. So it will be new status. After that, we will be assigning the defect to someone. Or maybe after we open the defect, right, we are assigning the defect to the development manager, so that first they will be analyzing the defect and they will be assigning the defect to the respective developer. And then they will be analyzing it, right, and in case the defect is really valid, it will be active status. Otherwise, in case defect is not valid, it will be they are going to be rejected, and it will be rejected status. Once it is valid, they will be fixing the defect, right, and once fix is available, they will be sending to the QA team to retest the defect. In case we are finding the defect to be working fine, right, we will be verifying and closing the defect. Otherwise, we will be reopening the defect, and again it will be going to the developer to fix them. Sometimes defect is valid, but the developer will not going to fix the defect in that particular release or cycle, so they are going pushing that to the next cycle or the next release, so that can be deferred. So that are the different life cycles available in the defect. Then what is automation testing? So as of now, we already learned what is the functional testing or the manual testing or black box, white box testing. But definitely in automation testing, right, instead of manual intervention, we will try to automate everything. So we'll write the script, and once we write the script, so those scripts will try to run them automatically, and based on the automatic intervention, based on the minimal and manual intervention, we can execute our script, right? So automation testing is a software testing method or technique to test any application and compare the actual result with the expected result. This can be achieved by designing test script using any relevant automation testing tool. Nowadays, automation is vastly used to automate repetitive tasks or other testing tasks which are difficult to perform manually. Why do we prefer automation testing instead of manual testing? So definitely in the manual testing, right, in case the same set of thing we need to run multiple times, every time we will be running it manually, right, and it will taking a huge effort from the manual testing team, and there can be probability that we can do some mistake. But in case the source repetitive testing, repetitive type of testing, we need to perform with different variation of data combination as well, and in case we can automate it, right, so we can easily do it with without manual intervention, so that there will be less chances, and definitely productivity will be good also. So in manual testing, test cases are executed manually without any proper support from relevant tools. However, for automated testing, test cases are executed with the assistance of one or more appropriate tools. Automation testing is also more reliable as there is less chances of human error. In manual testing, we have to run test cases manually every time based on our need, hence it is time consuming. However, in automation testing, once scripts are ready, we can run the test cases any number of times with different combination of data with minimal time. What are the different kind of tools available in the market for automation testing? So before automation testing started, right, we need to do the POC or the proof of concept, right? So where we'll be verifying that what are the different types of tools available, what are the pros and cons, whether tool is free of cost or license, whether client is ready to bear the license cost, all this stuff, whether the tool is supporting the testing whatever we are intending to do, whether the tool is supporting the different browsers, operating system, like that, right? So there are so many tools available, some of the license, some are in the free tools. So Selenium is a very powerful tool for testing the web application. It provides multiple browser support and operating system support as well. It is a free tool. Whereas QFT or UTP, right, quick test professional or unified functional testing, is very useful tool for non-web based application and comes with a built-in object repository. It is a licensed tool. Similarly, RFT, right, rational functional tester, also support automated testings for functional regression, GUI and data-driven testing, which is also a licensed tool. Similarly, Tosca is also licensed tool, which is a powerful automation tool for functional and regression testing of various software product where minimal coding will be there. Similarly, Silk is also a licensed tool which is used for automated functional regression testing tool, especially for the desktop, mobile and web application. Sequely is an web open source tool, especially for the GUI testing. Similarly, SoapUI is also an automation tool for API testing. APM is an automation testing tool that support mobile testing, native apps testing and mobile web application testing. Whereas TestNG and JUnit are the framework which is the free in of cost. So TestNG is not an automation tool itself. However, it provides great support to automation framework built in Selenium, APM or STC or etc. JUnit mostly used by the unit testing by the developer. There is another tools available called NUnit. Especially, it will be used whenever we will be using Selenium with CHash. Whereas TestNG is used with Selenium in Java. What are the different components available in Selenium? So you could see there are primary 4 components available. One is Selenium ID, Selenium RC or remote control, Selenium WebDriver and Selenium Grid in the Selenium suite, right? So Selenium RC and Selenium WebDriver has been merged to Selenium 2, then Selenium 3, and nowadays Selenium 4 version is also available, where a lot of advanced features you can expect. So Selenium ID or integrated data environment is a Firefox add-on that user can only use in creating relatively simple test cases and test suite. Nowadays it is no longer used. Okay, whenever it started in the 2009-10, at that time it was really used, but nowadays nobody using Selenium ID. Selenium remote control is also known as Selenium 1, which is the first Selenium tool that allow user to use programming language in creating complex tests. Whereas Selenium WebDriver, the newer breakthrough that allows user test script to communicate directly to the browser, thereby controlling it from the operating system level. Whereas Selenium Grid is a tool that is used with Selenium Remote Control to execute parallel testing across different browser and operating system. Okay, so these are the primary 4 different components available in Selenium. Selenium Integrated Data Environment, Selenium Remote Control, Selenium WebDriver, Selenium Grid, Selenium RC and Selenium WebDriver has been merged. Nowadays Selenium version 4 is also available. What is the main advantage of Selenium? So we have some advantage. That is the reason where Selenium is still used mostly in the market, especially for the automation testing perspective. So Selenium is the first point. Selenium is an open source tool and free software, and hence there is no licensing cost for its usage. So, scripting can be done in most of the widely used programming language like C#, Java, Ruby, Perl, and Python. Automation using Selenium can be done in many operating systems. It can be Linux, it can be Mac, it can be MS Windows as well. It supports most of the popular browsers like Safari, Chrome, Opera, Internet Explorer, and Firefox as well. Selenium Grid helps in parallel and distributed testing. And Selenium uses very less hardware resources compared to the other automation testing tool it can be, right? So what are the main disadvantages of Selenium? So definitely each and everything in the real time or in the market, right, might have some disadvantage, right? And definitely, especially in case something is free, right, it can must have some disadvantage as well. So Selenium does not provide, right, desktop application automation testing support, right? Sometimes it can be tough for the Selenium, but nowadays with the help of Winium, right, Winium application, we can still proceed with the desktop application automation with the help of Selenium. Web service or REST or SOAP cannot be automated using Selenium. Selenium WebDriver requires programming language requirement for script creation. So nowadays we are talking about few scripts like Tosca, where less programming language will be required. But at Selenium is a free tools, and it majority of the inbuilt feature is not there. So we have to rely on the programmer skill, right? So that QA need to learn one programming language, the one tool, and the relevant framework as well. No vendor support for tools compared to commercial tool like UFT or Silk. As is the free, right? So definitely we cannot make sure that we will be getting some adequate support. Okay, but in case you are buying some license, right, some support will be there from the vendor. As there is no object repository concept in Selenium, maintainability of object becomes very difficult, right? In UFT, right, there is an object file feature is available, and we can create the object repository, which is the inbuilt feature of the UFT. But Selenium, there is no inbuilt features available, and we have to rely on the external programming or external integration. For performing common tasks required in automation like logging, reading, writing to external files, we have to rely on the external library, right? So these are the disadvantages available in Selenium. What is the main advantage of Selenium WebDriver compared to Selenium IDE or remote control? It is faster than other tools of Selenium suite like IDE or remote control. It controls the browser by programming. It supports data-driven testing and cross-browser testing. It supports parallel test execution with the help of either JUnit or TestNG. So what does it mean by parallel testing? Suppose we have designed 100 test cases, but 100 test cases we want to distribute to different operating system or the browser. So we can do it with the help of the relevant framework, right, in the Selenium. So parallel testing is one of the important key features of Selenium WebDriver. So what is the main difference between Selenium and UFT? So Selenium is a free tool, whereas UFT is a licensed tool. We need to bear the license cost. Selenium supports various operating systems like MS Windows, Mac, and Linux, whereas UFT supports MS Windows only. Selenium supports several programming languages like Java, Python, Perl, C#, whereas UFT supports only one programming language, which is BBSkit. No inbuilt object repository is available in Selenium as its free tool, whereas local and shared object repositories in which is inbuilt in nature is available in UFT. No built-in reporting features available in Selenium, whereas built-in reporting features are available in UFT. Selenium supports primarily web-based application, whereas UFT support both desktop and web-based application. So whenever if you want to install Selenium in your application desktop, in your desktop or laptop, it uses less hardware resources, whereas right for UFT it will require 3 GB RAM. Otherwise its system will be slow. Okay. So difficult to set up environment and use for Selenium, whereas for the UFT it's easy and set up and use. Parameterization can be done via programming, but it's difficult to implement, whereas parameterization support is built. In built parameterization feature is available in the UFT. No reliable support from any specific group, but permanent support from the HP will be there for the UFT because it's a product of HP and you are buying the license from the HP with the cost. What are the different type of testing supported by Selenium? There are a lot of testing supported by Selenium. It can be functional testing, it can be regression testing, it can be data creation, it can be sanity. Sometimes also you can do the end-to-end testing with the help of Selenium WebDriver. What is the automation testing life cycle, right, using Selenium or maybe any automation tool, right? So there are 5 life cycles available in the automation testing life cycle process as part of STLC or software testing life cycle. So first we need to do the planning, then we need to do the design, then we need to modify our script, then we need to debug and run our script, and at the end we will be analyzing the test result and logging the defect. So in the first step, right, as part of the test automation planning, we will analyze the requirement, analyze the application under test or the AUT in terms of object identification, and identify the test case for the automation from the functional team, right? It can be regression test case, it can be system test case, it can be integration test case, it can be end-to-end test case, or it can be some sort of data creation, or it can be sanity or the MOOC test case, right? Once it is done, then we will develop or we will proceed with the test script design, where we will be creating the page library instead of writing script for each and everything. We will be trying to create the page library, creating the reusable methods which will be used multiple times. We will design the test step with the help of element locator technique. It can be ID, name, CSS, xpath, like that, right? Once it is done, right, we need to enhance our test script, because our objective is not only to proceed from one page to another, right? Also we need to validate that each and every page or each and every field is working as per our expectation. So we will be inserting the verification point with the help of assert or verify command. We will be using parameterization especially for the data driven testing. Instead of single data, we will try to validate the different kind of objective with variation in the data. And also we need to handle the expected or unexpected error. Otherwise, right, our execution is halt in case some error is coming. Once it is done, then we need to run and debug the test script, right? So locating and isolating error through step-by-step execution, and we need to debug in case of any wrong output is there, right? Then after that, based on our requirement, we need to run our test case in the actual time with the help of some sort of integration with the some other tool, test management tool, or some CI/CD or continuous integration tool like Jenkins. Once we are able to run all the test cases, right, sometimes test case can be fail, we need to analyze the result, right? So after that we need to publish the test result. In case any deviation is there actually in the system, we need to identify the defect and log them defect in the defect management tool. At the end of the software test automation testing life cycle, we are publishing the automation testing summary as well with the respective stakeholder. What are the different types of web element available in the web page? So what is web element? So web element represent an HTML element, right? HTML documents are made up by HTML element. HTML element are written with the starting as tag, with an end tag, with the content between the tag name. In case your it is starting with some sort of thing, it will tag name will start with HTML, right? Table, then it can be input tag, right? Then it can be select tag. So these are the different tags available. So based on the tag name, we can get to know whether which type of element is there. There are different type of element can be available in any web page. It can be edit box, text box, checkbox, images, drop down box, right? Combo box, button, link or hyperlink, sometimes web table or sometimes frame, right? So based on the different web type, right, the tag name will be there, right? In case it is drop down, the select tag will be starting, right? In case it is a link or hyperlink, anchor tag, A tag will be there. In case it is image, IMG or research tag will be there. In case it is a frame, the frame or iframe tag will be there. In case it is table, the table tag will be there, right? Table tag is the when TD, TR, and table body, table head, like that will be there. What is locator? The locator can be termed as an address that identifies a web element uniquely within the web page. Locator are the HTML properties of an element. Element locator are common for all the browsers. So in case you are working for the Firefox or the Chrome, the element locator, in case you identify the element with the help of any browser, it will not vary with the other browser. There is a diverse range of web elements available in a web page as mentioned previously, right? Like kind of edit box, text box, checkbox like that. Okay. With the help of locator, we can identify the web element uniquely. So there are several type of web element locators available, right, to deal with Selenium WebDriver, especially with the help of C# language. So first it will be ID, then name, then class name, tag name, link text, partial link text, and then CSS selector on xpath. In case there is an for the particular element, right, ID, name, class name is available, we can definitely try to identify them. In case it is a link, right, we will go for the link or hyperlink, right? And in case nothing is available, or maybe with the maybe nothing is uniquely available in the page, right, we will try to create our own customized CSS selector or xpath. In case we know that any element locator, then how we identify the element? With the first we will be creating object or instance for the iWebDriver interface. Then with the help of that object, we will be using find element. We will be calling the find element method. Then with the help of by, right, and then we will be creating a method with, right, by ID, name, class name, tag name, and we will be passing that reference here. So driver is the object or instance of the iWebDriver interface. Find element is the method available in the iWebDriver. By provides a mechanism by which to find elements within a document. ID is the or name is the element locator or attribute, and ID name is the locator value or corresponding locator's element locator value. How to inspect element in any web page? So first thing is that we need to open any browser. We need to load the URL, right, where we need to navigate, and maybe we need to navigate to the other page. After that, we need to press F12 button from the keyboard, right? Once we have pressed the F12 button, there will be inspector element available. Inspector button will be available. We need to move our mouse around the page, right? And whatever element we want to identify, then you need to, right, highlight the element. So automatically it will display all the different properties available. In case we are able to identify with the help of ID, name, class name is fine. Otherwise, we can create our own customized CSS and xpath. What is object repository? An object repository is an unique entity which allows a tester to store all objects that will be used in the test script in one or more centralized location rather than scattered all over the test script, so that other tester can use them as and when required instead of creating a new. So definitely we can, right, identify the element, right, without creating the object repository. But in case multiple testers are working, right, so that in a base location we can try to adding all the element as part of our object repository, so that anyone, instead of creating a new element locator technique or identify the element uniquely, they can refer those paths, right, and easily they can identify the element with those help of object repository. Why we need to use xpath? Sometimes I already mentioned, right, ID, class name or name might be available, but we are unable to identify the thing. Sometimes ID is available or name is available, but in the name itself there can be some static component, dynamic component, and dynamic component can vary every time, right? So that is the reason whenever you are trying to identify with the help of name, but next time the component is getting changed, name is getting changed, ID is getting changed, because dynamic component is getting changed. So that is the reason sometimes it will not able to identify the element with the help of ID, class name or name. So you need to create the xpath. So xpath are used to locate element which does not contain any ID, class name or name, or sometime where it will varying every time. So what are the common expression is associated with the xpath? We can create the basic xpath. So basic xpath expression selects node or list of node on the basis of attribute like ID, name, class name, etc. from the XML document. With the help of contents, right, we can create the xpath. Suppose say sometimes something is in the ID, right? Some of the part is volatile, some of the part is dynamic in nature, or some of the part is fixed and some of the part is dynamic. So with the help of content, with the dynamic, with the static part, we can create a xpath using or and, right? Sometimes maybe with the unique identifier we are not able to create the xpath, so we can use multiple properties with the help of and operation, right? Sometimes they will be using 2 or 3 properties with the help of or, so that one property is getting changed, but with the help of other properties which is unique in nature, we can still identify the element. Then start with, right, as we mentioned that Sometimes starting component is fixed or then remaining component is dynamic. So with the help of starting component we can use create XPath with the help of start with. Text, sometimes especially for the link or hyperlink with the help of text, right, we can create the XPath, right? And these are the basic different part, right? Apart from that, there are other way we can create the XPath from the right parent to child or child to parent, right, with the help of traversing. Okay, so reverse traversing or forward traversing we can do it, right, where with the help of following, right, by using this we can start, we could select everything on the page after the closing tag of the current node. With the help of ancestor, right, the ancestor axis selects all ancestor elements including grandparent, parent, etc. of the current node. Child selects all children element of the current node. Preceding selects all nodes that appear before the current node in the document except ancestor, attribute node and namespace node. Following sibling selects the following sibling of the context node, right? So in case there are multiple siblings there, with the help of following sibling we can find the sibling. So siblings are at the same levels of the current node. Parent, select the parent of the current node. Position selects the element out of the all input element present depending on the position number of provided. So with the help of basic XPath contents using or and start with text, we will be creating the normal XPath. But sometime we need to traverse from the parent to child or child to parent. So with the help of following, ancestor, child, preceding, following sibling, parent, position, we can create our own customized XPath, right, from the parent to child or child to parent directions traversing. What are the basic XPath symbols available in Selenium WebDriver? So basic symbol is like that. With the help of tag name, if you know the tag name, you can give double slash, then the tag name, and then third bracket @attribute name equal to corresponding value. If you do not know the tag name, you can give the asterisk marks after the double slash. Right? If you want to create the XPath with the help of contents, you can use double slash and the tag name will be there after that third bracket contents and here @type and the sub content. Right? If you want to use or operation, you can use @type and again or and other attribute and the corresponding attribute value. Similarly for the and also similar way. If you want to create the so we use the start with, right, you can use the start with and then starts with attribute and the corresponding value. If you want to create the text, so text equal to and then within the first quote write the text value, right. If you want to create with the help of following, right, so first you need to go to that one element and then double slash following with the help of respective locator technique. Similarly for the ancestor, right, if it is child, right, you can go to that particular thing and you can directly go to the child. If you want to proceedings, right, you can still use precedings. So you need to go to a particular location and then you can use precedings, and with the help of respective locator type, right, we can use it. Similarly following siblings and parent, so that are the different thing I have tried to given here. So with the help of this thing you can try to create your own customized XPath for the particular element. Okay, so that are the different 25 question and answer I have tried to cover today. I will be creating so many others question and interview question and answer slides and videos so that it will help you to clear the right Selenium automation testing interview with the help of CHAS. Thank you.